What is the hype with all the hypercars? Today we're spotlighting Hypercar. If you're unfamiliar with Hypercar, it is the new class that was actually rolled out almost 2 years ago. And basically what it was is a change from the old LMP1 cars, which for the last few years Toyota dominated, to now what is the Hypercar. I'm not getting into the specifics of all the intricacies as to what makes up a hypercar, but the bottom line is that these are the new classes for both the World Endurance Championship as well as IMSA. Spark Models that is, recently announced that they were going to produce the Glickenhaus 007 hypercar, which placed third overall in this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. That really had me thinking more about hypercar. This new era of sports car racing reminds me a lot of the Group C cars back in the 1980s. The similarities are there was a bunch of manufacturers who participated, and there was much more diversity in the design of their cars. Thus, the same thing is happening now with hypercar. There are 11 manufacturers currently who are going to or are currently participating in this new class. 11. That would include companies such as Ferrari, Glickenhaus, Porsche, Cadillac, Peugeot, Bicoles, Audi, Acura, BMW, Alpine, and Lamborghini. Lamborghini and Ferrari. Are you freaking kidding me? So I'm very excited about this class, which also made me think I better make some space and save some cash, because I think I'm going to be buying quite a few of these. Just the fact that all of them have some similarities, but yet there's enough distinction from each one. And I'm about to show you what I mean. So let's just get to my computer here and let's take a look at some of these hypercars. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you guys, if I can get to the screen. This here is the Penske hypercar, or LDMH. And Penske, from what I understand, is both going to campaign this car in the WEC, which is the European Championship, as well as the US Championship, which would be IMSA. And as you can see, it does have some similarities to the current production LMP2 cars. And of course the LMP1s, the former LMP1s that used to campaign as well. Some of the differences externally anyways is you have this larger air dam here, which is something I've noticed common in all of these. I really like the headlights, the way that they are set up here on this car. You can also go to YouTube and you will see the you can actually see this car running in the Goodwood, if you're familiar with that. So you can actually see that car running live, but I think it's a good looking car. Again, it's very close to what we're used to seeing, with the exception of that front there, but I still think it's a good car. Next is the Toyota hypercar. Now this car has actually been running, I believe, for 2 years now in this class. And I like the design of it. I think the white and red kind of camouflages the overall styling of this particular hypercar. But it's okay. I could say this one is probably now on the top of my list as far as hypercars to get. Even though if you're somebody who collects all the Le Mans winners, then you definitely want a version of this, because this did win Le Mans. I don't think I'm giving anything away if you don't know that by now. Well, but anyway, yeah, so you might want it for that. Next is the Ferrari. Now, the one thing that I noticed right away in the back, if you look there, you have a wing on top of another wing. So they're really taking advantage of the aero with this particular package. Again, you see that large front air dam. this so far we only have the camouflage version of this, so we really can't see the lines of it. But I just think it's outstanding that we will see Ferrari in another championship other than the typical ones they've been in for the past, it seems like 15 to 20 years, which is, sports cars. So you would have the 488, for example, that's currently campaigning, and of course the Formula One car. So I just really think it's cool that we actually will see a Ferrari participating in something and then other than just those two categories. Next is the Glickenhaus. Now, the Glickenhaus, I just really like this. This is an American company, by the way, if you didn't know that already. And the biggest difference or significant difference is the front of where you see those massive headlights. This probably, of all the hypercars, has the longest front half that I've noticed. And I am no aerodynamicist, but I can only imagine that they're taking advantage of some downforce with that large front end. And I also like the styling of it, obviously. I kind of threw out a hint there when I opened this page. The model that I would want of this is this version right here. This is the car that was ran during the 6 hours of Monza, which was a couple weeks ago. I just think that thing looks freaking fantastic. That I definitely will be adding to the collection. I just love those gold wheels. So that's the Glickenhaus. Next we have Bicoles. Not sure I'm saying that correctly, but pronouncing that correctly. But the Bicoles I like because it seems like it's a very nice and tight package. I like the way that the headlights are integrated into the car, into the fender there. That's really nice and neat. And see if I can find a side view of it. It's a little bit better. Yeah. This one I would want in my collection for sure. I just really like the way that looks. Those wheels are outstanding. And yeah, so that's the Bicoles. Very cool. So front. Yeah, that looks mean. All right, next we have the BMW. The BMW is camouflage, so they actually haven't revealed it quite yet, but I can tell this one's gonna, well, just from these images, I think this one's gonna look spectacular. My favorite part of this already, of this particular car, is the front end. They took advantage of that massive front end and used it as a, their iconic kidney grille or front end, which I think is really nice that they did that. I also like how flat the car is. You can tell that this thing sits very low. And yeah, Spark makes this. I'll definitely get this one too. I'm liking that a lot. Some U.S. manufacturers. Cadillac. Well, we did. Well, actually, we did two. So, well, one so far. That'd be the Glickenhaus. But so now we have Cadillac. Now, Cadillac looks a lot like their former Daytona prototype car, with the exception of well, they took the styling cues from that, obviously, but it's a lot more sleeker. And I'd be really curious to see how this thing performs. But I think it looks good. I'm still on the fence if I would actually get one. I would actually have to see more pictures of it. Obviously, this car isn't liveried yet, so there is a little bit of camo going on there. Camouflage, that is. Here's a side view. That looks good. I really like the swooping lines on it. It's a much more... It doesn't look as busy as some of the other... It's sort of like that Bicoles car. It's a lot more smoother. It's not as busy, but that's a good looking car. It's an image in black. This was the rendering of it, more or less. And yeah, wow. I don't know. That that looks like a cool Batmobile. Next, we have the Acura. Now, the Acura, I'm gonna pass for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, they decided to maintain this ridiculous plane on the front end. I don't know where that comes from. They claim it's supposed to give you. This is the older version, so this is the current version that's being phased out. See that weird airplane fin on the front? Yeah, I don't know why they want to keep that. I don't understand that. I don't think it's an aerodynamic advantage. Maybe it is. I don't know. With the newer car, unlike all the other ones, this does not have that massive air dam in the front, so obviously it must do something. But I just don't like the way it looks. Yes, the car is pretty camouflaged up, so you really can't see it that well. Oh, that's the Porsche, but here we go. Yeah, that doesn't help at all. It's a little better. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see it without the camo. Maybe that'll change my mind, but right now I'm just not feeling the ridiculous airplane wing in the front. Next is the Peugeot. This car had its debut in the 6 Hours of Monza, and I just think this is stunning. To me, this is my favorite hypercar of all the hypercars that have actually been produced so far. I mean, you have to give it to the French on this one. This thing looks good. Look at those lights. I just think that is beautiful. There's no doubt. Look at the tail lights. There's no doubt that this one is definitely going in the collection. That is a fantastic looking car. And they really took advantage of the styling and functionality with this particular design. That emblem is just, it's in your face. I really like that. That's, wow. Yeah, I'm definitely getting this for the collection. So it'd be really interesting to see what that Ferrari looks like now, you know, out of the camouflage. The other thing that's interesting is that unlike all of the other hypercars, this does not have some giant wing on the back. What they're doing is, and I did read up on it, is they're actually taking advantage of the actual car itself and using that as a wing for downforce. So I thought that was interesting. The only question I have about that, I'd be really curious, I haven't seen any literature on it, is that adjustable in the back? Can you actually adjust that? Because I'd imagine on different tracks you couldn't possibly depend on the same downforce. So that'd be a really good question. But yeah, that's, wow. Good job, Peugeot. Yeah, it placed, I believe, in 4th in Monza. I know it wasn't in the top 3. So they still do have some teething problems with the car, but it did finish. That's the interesting thing. They did run 2 cars, so I believe one didn't finish, but that was more or less a I believe it got into a small accident and the car couldn't continue, but the other one did finish. And wow. So there you are. So those are the hypercars that are available or going to be running in either, you know, the later half of this year or beginning next year. And I am very excited, and I'm looking so forward to actually adding some of these when they become in model form from Spark And I say from Spark because, well, Spark is the only company that seems to make all of these. The only ones that I'd be concerned about as to who would actually make them would be the Ferrari. Spark doesn't have a Ferrari license. Only BBR and Virago have the Ferrari license. There's MR Collection too, but you know, the big guns when it comes to Ferraris is definitely BBR. If BBR makes it, I'd be excited about that. This BBR obviously is a higher end model maker, and I'm very sure they would, you know, do a great job with the Ferrari LMH car. All right, now on to the hot list. The hot list are models that are soon to be released or have recently been released, and they're gonna sell out quickly. This time we're starting out with the world's largest 1/18 scale model producer. Of course, we're talking about Autoart. First, we have the Lamborghini Diablo GTR, Diablo SE 30th Anniversary Edition in Galileo Spider, that's a color, the Toyota Celica Liftback 2000 GT RA25, the 1973 car in moss green, which is definitely going to give ignition models a run for its money, the McLaren Speedtail, and the Nissan GTR Nismo 2022 Special Edition. For those who could not stomach paying several hundreds of dollars for the original, now can rejoice with the reissue of the Lexus LFA in whitest white. I am sure the original matte black, pearl yellow, and perhaps some new colors are to follow. I am also sure those who treat their original zinc diecast as investments have lost some of that exclusive feeling. Just saying. Finally, collectors of Le Mans winning race cars are gonna want to jump in on the 2022 Toyota GR010 Hybrid number 8 Gazoo Racing's overall winner of the 24 Hours Le Mans, with drivers Buemi, Hypercar, and Hartley. This model is going to be produced by Spark, and since Spark is usually initially the sole producer of these type of cars, they will definitely sell out. Please check with your local trusted retailer for any of these models. And that concludes this week's hot list. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe. That is the only way I'm going to know that you're enjoying these videos, which motivates me to make more. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time.